There is a version of myself that only exists in the first 3 seconds of seeing someone I'm genuinely drawn to. A version that, if I'm honest, I can't fully control. I have watched women I know experience this exact thing, that flicker before the composure returns, and I have lived it myself more times than I'd like to admit. It happens before thought, before strategy, before any of the careful self-presentation we are taught to maintain. And if you have ever wondered whether a woman's greeting carries more meaning than the words she actually says, you are asking the right question. Because what most people don't realize is that the greeting is one of the only moments in an entire interaction where the body speaks before the mind has had a chance to edit it. I want to walk you through this from the inside, not as a checklist of behaviors to spot, but as an actual account of what is happening inside a woman in that instant. Because once you understand the internal experience, you will never misread the external signs again. Stay with me here. Think about what a greeting actually is, psychologically. It is the moment where preparation meets reality. Before you arrive, she has already, whether she admits it or not, run a small internal simulation. She has imagined how the moment might go. She has perhaps even rehearsed, without meaning to, what she might say or how she might appear. And then you actually show up, and there is a gap, however small, between the version of you she was holding in her mind and the real, physical, present version standing in front of her. What happens in that gap, in that fraction of a second where imagination collides with reality, is the truest reaction she will give you all day. This is where things become interesting. The first thing that happens when a woman is genuinely affected by your presence is a change in her breathing that she does not choose. It is subtle. You might not consciously register it as breathing at all, but there is a small intake, almost a catch, right before she speaks. This is not romantic exaggeration. It is the body's autonomic response to a spike in attention and anticipation. Our nervous system reacts to significant stimuli with a brief pause in the breathing cycle, a kind of internal bracing. When I have felt this around someone I was genuinely drawn to, it has felt like the world holding still for half a second before color returns to it. And the man on the receiving end almost never notices the breath itself. He notices the warmth that follows it, without understanding what produced it. Think about it. We don't catch our breath around people who don't move us. The body does not bother bracing for the unremarkable. There is something deeper happening here. The second thing, and this is the one that women themselves are often least aware of doing, is the unconscious adjustment of self before the greeting even happens. Watch closely, and you will see it. A small touch to the hair, a slight straightening of posture, a brief check, almost imperceptible, of how she is presenting herself in that instant. This happens in the seconds before contact, sometimes even when she has already seen you approaching from a distance and has had time to settle. The adjustment still occurs, almost reflexively. What most people don't realize is that this self-adjustment is not vanity. It is a signal of how much the upcoming interaction matters to her nervous system. We do not unconsciously prepare ourselves for people who carry no weight in our minds. The body only bothers to adjust when something inside us has already decided this moment counts. Imagine this. Two people walk toward you in a single afternoon. One is a delivery driver, the other is someone you have feelings for. You do not adjust your posture for the delivery driver. You barely register his approach at all, because your nervous system has correctly assessed that nothing important is at stake. The adjustment, however small, is the body keeping score of significance long before your conscious mind has weighed in. We'll come back to why this distinction matters so much, but before we go there, consider the third thing. When a woman is genuinely happy to see you, beyond simple politeness, her eyes change before her mouth does. This sounds like a small detail, but it is one of the most reliable indicators that exists in human nonverbal communication. A social smile, the kind we give acquaintances, co-workers, people we are pleasant toward but not emotionally invested in, engages primarily the muscles around the mouth. A genuine smile, the kind that reflects real internal feeling, engages the muscles around the eyes as well, creating the slight crinkling that researchers call a true smile, and the rest of us simply feel as warmth. And here's the part that matters. The eye engagement in a genuine reaction happens first, often a fraction of a second before the mouth catches up. If you watch closely in the moment a woman first sees you and her eyes brighten before her smile fully forms, you are watching something that cannot be performed convincingly. The sequence itself is the proof. Consider the moment when you've caught someone forcing a smile in a photograph. The mouth is doing its job, but the eyes stay flat, slightly disconnected from the expression below them. That disconnect is what reveals a performance. The absence of that disconnect, when the eyes and the mouth move together in the right order, is what reveals the real thing. Now we move deeper. The fourth thing, and this one is deeply personal to explain, is the quality of her voice in that first word. Not the words themselves, which are usually unremarkable. Hi. Hey. There you are. The content rarely carries the message. It is the register, the slight lift, the warmth that enters the voice involuntarily when something genuinely good has just happened to a person. I have noticed in myself that when I am truly glad to see someone, my voice does something I cannot fully replicate when I am simply being polite. There is an unguarded quality to it, a brightness that exists for maybe 2 or 3 words before composure returns, and the conversation finds its normal rhythm. That brief window, those first few words, is one of the most honest moments in any interaction between two people, because it occurs before the conscious mind has had time to modulate the performance of greeting someone the way we have all been socially trained to. This is where things become interesting. The fifth thing is the one I think about the most, because it reveals something about why these moments matter so much in the first place. When a woman is genuinely affected by seeing you, there is often a brief, almost imperceptible hesitation in her movement toward you, immediately followed by an acceleration. It is as if the body registers the significance of the moment and briefly pauses to absorb it before closing the distance more quickly than usual. This is not calculated. It is the physical signature of genuine anticipation meeting genuine relief. The pause is the registering. The acceleration is the wanting. And together they create a rhythm that simply does not exist in greetings that are purely social or obligatory. Picture yourself watching 2 greetings side by side. In one, a woman walks toward an old classmate at a reunion, evenly paced, friendly, unremarkable. In the other, she walks toward someone whose presence has actual weight for her. The second greeting will almost never have the same flat, even pace as the first. There will be a beat, then a quickening. That rhythm is not something anyone is taught. It simply happens, and it is one of the hardest things in the world to fake convincingly more than once. What happens next is important because this is where I want to address something that most content on this topic gets wrong. Many of these signals get reduced to a simple checklist, as if attraction is a code to be cracked through careful observation of micro-behaviors. But here is the deeper truth. These physical signs are not the cause of her feelings. They are the residue of something that has already happened internally, long before the greeting itself. The breath catching, the self-adjustment, the eyes brightening before the mouth, the warmth in the voice, the pause before the acceleration, all of these are downstream effects of a deeper psychological event. And that event is this. Somewhere inside her, you have already become significant. The greeting does not create that significance. It simply reveals it, briefly, in a moment too quick for her conscious mind to fully control. The deeper truth is that what you are actually looking for, when you study how a woman greets you, is evidence of where you live in her internal world when you are not present. A woman who has been thinking about you, who has been carrying some version of you through her day, will greet you differently than a woman who has not. Not because she is performing more affection, but because the body cannot help but reveal what the mind has already been doing in private. This is also why these signs can never be reliably faked for very long. A woman can decide to act warmly. She can choose her words, control her expression, manage the obvious signals. But the breath, the unconscious self-adjustment, the sequencing between the eyes and the mouth, the brief hesitation before closing distance, these are not under conscious control in the way a smile or a sentence is. They are leaks from a system that is far more honest than the social self we present. There is one more layer worth sitting with before we move to the deepest insight. These signals tend to intensify, not fade, the longer real feeling has been present. A woman in the early stages of curiosity about someone will show flickers of this. A woman who has carried feelings for someone over weeks or months will show it more fully, because the gap between imagined and real, the very thing that produces the reaction, grows larger the more she has been quietly anticipating the moment in her own mind. If you notice that her reaction to seeing you has grown more pronounced over time rather than less, that is not random. That is evidence that whatever she has been carrying has deepened rather than faded. Now we arrive at what this entire conversation has actually been pointing toward. The reason these small signals matter so much is not because they let you decode a woman like a puzzle. It is because they tell you something important about the nature of genuine attraction itself. Genuine attraction is not primarily expressed through what someone says or even what they consciously choose to show you. It lives in the involuntary, in the places where the body moves faster than the mind can manage it. And this means that the deepest compliment a woman can give you is not a flattering word. It is an unguarded reaction she did not have time to construct. So the question shifts. The question was never really, how do you read her greeting correctly? The real question, the one that actually matters, is this: have you become the kind of presence that produces an involuntary reaction in someone? Not a performance, not a courtesy, an actual uncontrollable response that exists for a fraction of a second before the practice self returns. Because that fraction of a second, brief as it is more honest than almost anything either of you will say to each other for the rest of the day. That is what to look for. Not the greeting itself, but the truth that slips through before she has time to decide what to show you. If this opens something for you, there is much more to explore. Stay close.